Hello and welcome back to Podcasting as Practice, to the last normal, I suppose, Podcasting as Practice of the year. I'm Dave, my pronouns are he and him.
I'm Jamie, my pronouns are he and him.
Oh shit, I'm Rob,
God,
mine
my
he and him.
life.
Episode
And I'm Alistair, my pronouns are he and him.
Everyone.
There are some pronouns and names in there somewhere, like whatever.
Yeah, you've been here
sorted
before,
out.
I assume.
Just pick the bits out of the soup of our professionalism.
Yeah, but do finish your plate.
Waiter, there's a
Fuck,
bit
has
in my
soup
soup,
on a
please
plate?
take it out. Rob has soup in a plate, fuck's sake. Rob has
But,
all
like-
of his meals in plates.
There's the edge of plate and bowl. It's like, you don't have to like eat it from a trough. Like, there are bowl-like plates and plate-like
Who the
bowls.
fuck is eating soup from a trough?
Me, if I can get away with it. I would eat a trough of soup.
Yeah.
We've crossed the fancy lad event horizon.
Yeah.
It's just fancy lad horseshoe theory. Oh. Okay, well, we're on a little food diversion. Why don't I put it on a food version?
That's the
bridge.
silky smooth
Yep.
transition right there.
Yep, episode 308.
Yeah.
So,
Saying
Would you
this,
like
all the
to
notes
know-
say episode 306. I love this.
would you like to know what our good friend from space, Lembit Opic, has been up to?
Oh
I
fuck,
would
no.
love to learn.
No.
For the first, I've already learned something, which is Lembit Opic is still alive.
Yes. Lembit Opic has taken up a new cause you'll all be glad to know. What worthy
good.
cause could it be? He's
Sadly, I
become
think I know
the
what this
new-
is.
He's become the new Mike Gapes. He's obsessed with milk.
Excellent. All right, this is
Nigel Farage has
the-
been on a milk kick lately as well.
Oh yeah, no, his thing was that semi-skimmed milk is woke or whatever. Like,
Oh yeah, that he was staying in a hotel and they didn't just like put the cow next to the breakfast table or something.
yeah, he couldn't like just fucking sook it right from the teat, and because of this, he was deeply disappointed by the wokeists.
I mean, he will be our
Unfortunate.
next prime minister, so
Who can say? Who can say? I still think he'll do the funniest thing possible and create a fucking 600-seat Tory government. But anyway, Lembit Opic is worried about what they're putting in the milk. So this is like a prime synthesis of Mike Gapes and Tim Farron.
I was just about to
I
ask
was-
if the milk was turning us gay.
I wanted to ask is he specifying what we're putting in the milk from the south or the milk from the north? Because in both cases, the answer is the reverse.
I went into Marks and Spencer this evening and asked if their cheese contains the Bill Gates contaminant Bovaer. They
Yes!
could not tell me. I advise all UK citizens to avoid M&S until they label those contaminated products with a warning, contains Bovaer. Don't touch Lurpak.
What the fuck is this like?
In a sane world, tomorrow's headlines would read Lembit Opic harangues bewildered retail worker. And sadly, that is not going to feature
Sadly,
in
none
any
of the
newspaper.
harangued retail workers knew who he was. Bovaer, so, Jamie, Bovaer is an additive that I think it's Arla is the company, have started adding to, saying can be added to cow feed. And the idea is that it will reduce the amount of fucking methane that they pump out.
This is just a fucking feed additive. They've been
Oh,
doing
yeah,
this
yeah,
for like
gotcha.
years.
It makes the cows walk. I remember this.
Yeah, it makes the cows too ashamed to fart in front of the farmer, and that's bad or something. I'm not entirely sure.
Basically, they gave a whole herd of cows this shit under laboratory conditions, and they all stopped saying slurs.
Is Bill Gates
doing a
Beauvale?
DEI initiative on my herd, and it's everything's very different now.
Is Bill Gates Beauvale causing infertility problems?
Does it
and
actually?
cancer,
Does it
question
actually
mark?
have anything to do with Bill Gates? Just out of curiosity.
I'm gonna punt and say that maybe whoever developed it did it with some minor amount of co-financing from his foundation, or
No, not even.
his foundation recommends using it.
Nope.
No,
nothing like that.
Seriously.
Bill
We're
Gates
just-
is still in the production phases of, or like, Bill Gates is giving money to someone else in the production phases initially of like their own thing that's basically the same but not. This is an
Cool.
entirely standalone product developed with no involvement from Bill Gates whatsoever.
Okay, so Lembe Opik is just doing fucking word association then, essentially.
Bill
Yes,
Gates is the king of woke. Did you not know this?
Is Bill Gates Beauvale causing infertility problems and cancer? I invite outlets using it, including Sainsbury's, M&S, Waitrose, Tesco, and the rest, to share the data to prove this one way or another.
And the rest. Holy shit, man. It's such a relief. It's such a relief to hear hard science covered properly in the newspapers for a change.
Fucking Paul Morrison's doesn't even make the Lembit Opit tinfoil hat cut. That's a sad state of affairs.
The Spa remains undefeated.
The rest of his timeline is largely clogged up with this.
How long's this shit been around?
Oh, it's quite recent. Like it's fairly new in deployment, I think. But people have only started getting hit up about it in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
like
'cause-
you know what I mean. It hasn't been around long enough to like even begin to suggest that it causes infertility. Then I'm guessing.
Oh, don't you? I will get to that in not
Like,
but a moment.
Some guy at the Office for National Statistics with a stopwatch, like, just counting it like, that's 12 minutes. Can I push the big Children of Men button yet? Oh fuck!
Just drinking a pint of milk, staring anxiously at my underpants, going, I think it's wrong.
Yeah. He's also got a couple of incredible posts. BBC just spent 15
Actually,
minutes talking
how-
about prostate
how long-
cancer.
How long do you think like it took in Children of Men before anyone noticed anything was wrong? Do you know what I mean? Like, what's the time that you go without a birth before you start to think like, hang on, something's not right here? Like, do you know what I mean?
It's fucking negative time if you speak to anyone who's ever said the words great replacement.
Just, do you reckon like fucking? Do you know what I mean? Like, maternity wards were just having like the easiest 6 months of their life before like someone from the government came down and like fucking, do you know what I mean? Started panicking.
I'd say they're due a little bit of time off, really. It seems only fair.
Be allowed to bring in games.
Yeah. Yeah. We can have midwifery outside today because there's nothing to do.
Wet play for midwives.
Yeah, so another just fucking banger tweet from Lembit. BBC just spent 15 minutes talking about prostate cancer. Why didn't they mention a statistical link between prostate cancer and cycling one single time? Ironically, they're actually promoting a cycle ride.
Wait, so am I supposed to be worried about cycling or the cows or both?
Yes, both.
Just
don't
arses
drink
in
milk
general,
on
I
your
think.
bike.
Yeah, that's... Has anyone
Someone
checked with
did
Lembit?
finally
Are
get
there-
through to him.
Are there, in his space utopia, are there cows there?
Yes, but they're all digital. Digital methane is
He's
perfectly
gonna-
safe.
Escape to his moon base to develop the perfect bionic anus. Put an end to all of this nonsense once and forever.
Just watching Moonraker, seeing Jaws and taking furious notes.
So, Bill Gates' methane cutting additive to cows is Rumen 8, which is
Oh,
yeah, okay, good.
Christ.
Yeah, I know.
Oh my
Not
God.
Beauvale, a rival concoction from Arla. But as methane is 0.00017% of atmosphere, these artificial additives are a pointless risk to fix a made-up climate problem.
Is he now?
It is staggering how stupid this man is. Okay, conspiracy theorist wacko, that's one thing, but just plainly stupid, I just have no respect for it.
Yeah.
I think we're also the only legitimate news outlet that has been paying attention to Lempe Opik in years.
Please never call us a legitimate news outlet ever again.
You're one-stop shop for everything Lembit.
I've worked really hard to get this big fake news badge, and I'm not about to give it up.
Yeah, I just bought a Trilby hat. Stick a press card in there.
So, I also found a blog which was written by someone in the Food Standards Agency, which is basically shut the fuck up about Bovaer. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, but that's what he would say.
Yeah.
Well, that you're right. That is what they would say, because what I did was I read that, realised I was bored by it, and then noticed at the side that there was a comment section. You'll be glad to know at the time of me reading this, there are 88 comments.
Sure, on the nose.
No one wants to reply lest they ruin it.
Nigel Roche writes, "It is very well for the FSA sitting in an office miles from reality to say it is all right for the additive 3-nitroxypropane
Posting live from the Shadow Realm.
or 3-nop to be used because has undergone rigorous safety assessments as part of the FSA's market authorisation process. I happen to remember that the authorities and scientists said feeding cattle protein made from sheep was perfectly safe. Then mad cow disease hit and the beef industry took a hell of a knock. But they said it was okay then, said whoops, sorry, we made an error."
Well, the crazy thing is...
the mad cow disease is in the room with us at the moment.
Yeah, the crazy thing is, things are fine until someone realises that they're not. I mean, different things are different, as a wise philosopher once said.
Yeah. Joe says,
Is that got an
Bovaer
exclamation
and its
mark?
cousin make milk taste like the inside of a rancid soured big black rail car. If the milk doesn't taste good, just quit buying it.
Yeah, what if it still tastes good? And then, I don't know, there's milk shit in Bovaer.
Anonymous says, "Why don't we force humans to stop burping and suppress them with drugs and chemicals so that we can save the planet? Let's do it to kids too, as this government destroys all kindness and humanity."
Do it.
I mean, I'm not a biologist, but you don't burp methane, right?
I don't
You don't know
think
that?
so.
I've never known anyone like their burps.
Yeah.
There's probably a bit of carbon dioxide in there.
Where are the Mythbusters when we need them?
Yeah, these are the pressing questions they need to be answering the FSA blog comments.
Yes. Charlie Imp says, "If a farmer accidentally spills Bovaer and a gale is blowing, are people right to be concerned about exposure? What happens to a cow's body at an abattoir if they had been fed on Bovaer?"
Yeah,
Farmer turned into live cow by Bovaer accident.
Yeah, and what if that farmer in the gale was carrying like a comically big ladder and then turned around and hit another farmer in the back of the head?
Well, what you've got right there is the opening to Casualty.
Oh. Now I'm realising that I should really have the Casualty theme as a drop. It's perfect.
Yeah, you should, like. But
Right,
yeah,
okay,
like,
I'll resolve that for
I'm just looking
2025.
forward to, like, do you know what I mean? Having to have those maps that they fucking put about, like, when Chernobyl happened, about where they expected the fallout to carry on the wind and that, but for every time a farmer drops a bucket.
Anne says, "The FSA and other government food organisations have been poisoning people for years because it is all about the money, not about people's health. The populations are getting sicker every year by eating food manufactured by companies just wanting to make more money by finding cheaper ways to manufacture foods. They produce false studies or pay scientists to do false studies, which is obviously cheaper, to say that they are not toxic. We have more additives in our food now than ever. But now they also want to poison the animals, as they are already poisoning our crops with chemicals. We are better off growing our own food. At least we know what is in it.
For heaven's fucking sake! I mean,
I'm sorry, but you can't create your own food from first principles. Where are you going to get the water? The water's full of shit.
Yeah, in order to grow a carrot, first you must create the universe.
Muds.
I'm sorry,
Walking
but
up to some mud and giving it the fucking Socratic method in the hope that a carrot appears.
I mean, look, I've seen Matt Damon do it on Mars, so I'm sure I can do it at home.
Yeah, well, Mars doesn't have Thames water.
Well, that's what we were going there to find out.
That only works in its favour. That's why it's such fertile ground. Fiona Evans says, farmers held a demonstration against the government and its farmland tax. How about holding a demonstration against this Bovaer additive? All mammals fart, brackets, humans are also mammals, ! And have done so since before Adam was a little boy, full stop, !
That's fantastic. I love that.
Was Adam a little
boy?
Was he though?
I don't believe so.
I have no idea.
No, I don't think he was.
I don't think she was either. But
Phil says, reminds me of, quote, safe and effective, end quote. What's going to happen when the cows are slaughtered? It's being cleared by governments who are almost draconian in their application of the COVID vaccine. And look where that got us.
There we go.
Big business wins again. Follow the money. John Pearson says, this is absolutely disgraceful. Even if you could accept the spurious arguments which the governments of the world are spouting in their efforts to make the public panic about climate change, square bracket, which is an entirely natural occurrence, just look at the history of weather over the last 2,000 years, close square
just
bracket.
Look at the history of my fucking arse.
It takes a lot of imagination to blame weather patterns on belching cows. We have rockets being fired into space and aeroplanes overhead, both of which cause more damage than cows. And then, what about the cows themselves? The additive works by destroying one of the enzymes which aid digestion. I don't fancy walking through a field of cows which have been awake all night because of indigestion.
Yeah, man. This won't solve the problem completely, therefore it's not worth doing, I agree.
What kind of fucking, deranged, fucking hypothetical is that? What the fuck?
Would you like, Jamie, I can perfectly illustrate exactly what kind of mind we're dealing with his next and last sentence.
Why is he walking through fields of cows at all? And, what does he think? They're all just going to be, fucking chasing after him because he's got a packet of Rennie in his pocket or something? Why is the cows having... How does he know what a cow with indigestion is like? How can he identify one? I doubt Phil, is that his real name? I doubt his, application of the scientific method here.
Oh, this isn't Phil. This is John Pearson. Thank you, these people, for putting their names on the Gov.
Oh, well, I apologise for disparaging Phil. Was he the mad anti-vax prick?
Yes.
Okay, well...
John ends this with, how can the long-term effect of this additive be discovered when dairy cows have an artificially short life anyway? How indeed? What long-term concerns might there be for the short-lived animal? Who could possibly say, John?
What if we developed a cow that could live for 80 years first and then figured out whether or not this shit was going to kill it?
Yeah, we need to stop everything just in case.
Well, we need to elect them to the leadership of the Democratic Party first.
Do you remember new Facebook terms and conditions? New Facebook terms and conditions are coming out, and I do not consent to them.
Yeah.
Kate says, I do not consent to taking part in trials using Bovaer. Therefore, I would expect all affected products to be clearly and appropriately labelled so that I can make my own choices. Well, folks, someone's cracked it, so don't worry. It will all now have to be labelled because that was posted on the internet.
But no, I think, personally, this sounds like, the concept of, we'll give, fucking... It's basically digestive biscuits, right? They were originally, the reason they're called digesters is because they were meant to stop you from shitting or something like that, right? They were meant to, your body would run at peak efficiency if you ate a packet of digesters every day.
Yeah, I promise you, if you eat enough of them, that does not work.
Yeah, well, this
That's
is just
a
that, and
scientific
it's like
method for you right there.
I don't think this is going to work, and I'm not convinced it would make a huge amount of difference if it did. And like realistically, we should maybe just stop like fucking eating so much meat instead of like fucking. What if we invented like some kind of thing that would like magically solve like all of the problems that we could solve by just moderating our fucking behavior slightly?
The
Do you know what I mean?
AK-47 was invented decades ago.
You know what I mean, though? Like, you know, like
Yeah.
Bill
Yeah.
Gates and fucking whoever else
The
don't
actual
need to be
solution
like.
here is to simply not do factory farming and scale back actual meat farming like massively to the point of it becoming
Plant more
non-existent eventually.
fucking trees. Maybe.
Yeah. But what if instead I
As,
found
as we've reiterated numerous times on this fucking podcast before, you can't patent a tree, so
yeah.
Yeah.
I guess
And
a
also
fucking
to-
a chemical solution for the cow anus is our only way forward.
Yeah, exactly. It's, you know, to echo Gareth from the last premium episode, this is fucking magic.
Yeah.
What if we just did some more of that instead of something entirely fucking reasonable?
Grant Jones says pregnant or breastfeeding women are advised not to eat certain foods or drink alcohol as they can be passed on to the baby via the mother's blood or her milk.
Check.
So the line about, quote, the additive is metabolized by the cows so do not pass into the milk is total crap. Okay.
What?
Thank you, Grant.
But there's not a diet.
Cool.
There is
Yeah,
cows
different
also
things
have a
are not
digestion
different.
system.
No,
It's hard to believe, I know, but you know, in some countries those are also considered a delicacy.
The last one, Rachel Elnall Love. As a mother of 5, I know from first-hand experience everything I ate and drank went straight into my milk and into my baby. I do not believe this
How do
propaganda
you know
from
that
the
from
government.
first-hand experience? Like, was the baby going, Jesus Christ, that bottle tastes like fucking crab sticks or something like that? You know what I mean? Like, what?
Yeah, getting undertones of crab sticks.
I do not believe this propaganda from the government once again attempting to assure us that this is safe and effective. And, if you really want to, scare quotes, save the planet, stop funding endless wars and bombing. Well, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Put
when they're right,
simply,
they're right.
Bovaer is an expensive additive designed to make its, brackets, no doubt WEF aligned, manufacturers
Oh my
richer,
God.
concocted to solve a non-problem at the expense of the health of the people. Personally, I am boycotting all products made from milk produced from Bovaer-eating cows, and these should be labelled space 3 exclamation marks.
I mean, this is just the mid to late 2000s.
Yeah,
uproar
we're just
about fucking
back,
halal
yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Repackaged for the post-COVID generation.
Yeah,
Just-
I also there was
It is delightful
enjoyed
though,
the
that
one
like
person on the
entirely
fucking
new
wind-up.
generations of fucking adults are being just driven insane on. I assume this piss just like, I don't know, marinates in Facebook somewhere like that you know, that it's just it's really good that like we, you know, I don't know. I have entirely
This
big
is,
feelings about like regulating social media, but like we need to rescue like the fucking boomer generation from themselves essentially. Like everybody's like, oh, you know, we should pass a law to make sure that under 16s don't have phones because their brains like turn to slop. And it's like, yeah, that's true. And I'm pretty mixed on
What
that
about the
kind of
over
law
16s?
anyway. Yes, exactly. Just like, you know, back when
Yeah.
you could go into have an actual honest retirement, like you could just go into a retirement home and like do fucking bingo, something fucking healthy, play cards
No,
or
no, no.
some
Rob,
shit. Shuffleboard.
Rob, we come to a compromise, and what we do is we put a catalytic converter and a big fucking exhaust on every mobile phone, and that way everyone gets lead poisoning again.
All right, I'm here for it.
All on the same level. Andrew Morton, the people don't want it. Stuff you and Bill the psychopath Gates. Government said the COVID mNRA was safe and effective, and we now all know it's poison. The government has no inhibitions and lie openly. It's true, but this is no different. take it out of the feed and stop giving livestock vaccines and antibiotics unnecessarily. This one garnered a reply from Scared Boomer, who says, "Panic, Andrew, now's the time to panic."
Yes, now is the time to panic. Gather your belongings, burn them in the street, Andrew. Run around.
I say to all of my Blue Sky mutuals, let us all move from that horrible website to gov.uk where the posting is good. Anyway, yeah,
we're gonna
that's all I had to
first
that.
people arrested under some new law. That's just like, you're going to make it illegal to post "panic, Andrew, panic" on gov.uk.
I promise I was actually going to try and put a proper nugget together about this, but then I seen this comment section and I lost myself to the old demons that made me do comment or commentary.
Yeah, we gazed into the abyss of Lembit Opik. Once again.
Very easy to do considering he lives in the void.
Speaking of the
fantastic.
void.
Yes, let's talk about the void.
Speaking of the void, did you know that Keir Starmer has 1 year to live? Quote, direct quote from John Curtis.
Okay. Excellent.
I mean, that might be a slight exaggeration, but today I read a newsletter from the Telegraph after like an hour of wrangling, subscribing to the website, sending an email to customer service under the name Vladimir Ilyich, etc. But like, shout out to Mick Wright for actually forwarding the fucking thing to me eventually, because customer services didn't do dick for me. Yeah,
for you, Alice, for you, the dear listener, Alistair slid into the mentions of the Telegraph. It's fucking.
Yeah, so there was this newsletter had the author, or the author of the Telegraph's politics newsletter, talking to resident pollster John Curtis about all the things that have happened. Because I don't know if you all noticed, but the numbers are sad.
Did he open this newsletter with? Yeah.
No, it opened with "afternoon!" exclamation mark. But there's a bunch of this that I'm going to skip because like it's like all stuff everyone should know and it's boring. But so there's a few bits that I want to read out. So it goes. So Keir spent much of his time as leader of the opposition decrying Tory sleaze, but he was soon afflicted by a similar string of scandals. A row over crony appointments was followed by the revelation of Sir Keir, his wife, and members of his cabinet had accepted thousands of pounds in cash and clothing from Labour donor Lord Ali. The PM accepting 32 grand to pay for clothing was, to say the least, not a good look. The annual Labour conference in Liverpool offered a chance to shift the dial, but instead it brought a revolt over winter fuel payments, a pro-Palestinian heckler, and an embarrassing slip of the tongue, which saw a call for the return of the sausages from Gaza.
I genuinely don't remember the sausages from Gaza, but this is the Telegraph. But
there was a lot of posting about it.
That was honestly one of the like most memorable things the fucking pricks ever said.
Can't believe Starmer went up on stage and spoke about the Grink.
So yeah, I mean, there's a little bit more about Reeves. The budget Reeves brought out. A lot of people very upset about it. 25 billion rise in employee national insurance and tax raid on family farms, which has seen tractor protests in Westminster.
Fuck off!
Fuck off!
Yeah, I mean, this is the Telegraph. Like, this is what you're going to get.
I don't think you should be allowed to describe anything as a family anything if, like, the family involved, like, do you know what I mean? Like, fucking is part of the royal family or, like, otherwise aristocratic. Like, family should just mean, like, some lads down the village who own a butcher's or something like that. It shouldn't mean someone who owns, like, it's a family business and the business is owning half of Kent or something like that.
This is anti-Italian discrimination.
Yeah. What about those poor puppets that own that pasta factory?
Fuck
Sue
the
Gray,
lot of
who was Keir Starmer's chief of staff, did not last the first 100 days in government she had been planning for, while Louise Hay, is it Hay or Hay, became the first cabinet casualty after admitting to misleading the police a decade ago. So, like, the reason I'm reading all this out, it's just like, so that we've all got a nice little reminder of all the shit that's been going on. Because, like,
yeah, I mean, frankly, she shouldn't have resigned for that. Like,
No.
I mean, the thing that's missing from this newsletter is the fact that she had declared this shit with the police having happened when I can't remember if it was when she became an MP or when she joined the cabinet. But yeah, like for many reasons, like completely insane that she had to go, unless you've got the obvious explainer of, oh, they're a bunch of factional dickheads who have killed the left, like the hard left, if you like.
the only way I would, like, fucking, do you know what I mean, support her resignation is if she stole a bunch of phones on the way out.
The tumult of recent months prompted Sakir to reach for the reset button last week. A mix of milestones, missions, and priorities. It prompted a row with
Do you think he really needs to reach for that button? I'd imagine he's got it quite close at hand.
It prompted a row with civil
every time he
servants.
moves his chair.
A row with civil servants, and called to mind the many attempts made by Mr. Sunak to recharge his premiership. Only a matter of months in, Sakir and Miss Reeves have learnt the hard way that governing is some degree harder than it looks.
2025, Keir Starmer bans roguelikes.
Yeah, so this is oh fuck, what's his name?
Table stakes.
Dominic Penna, like, yeah, these are all the things that happened this year. And so this next section is just talking about the polling, really. And there's a few bits from John Curtis, notorious pollster.
No, read from the newsletter. He's Britain's foremost polling guru.
So, new polling from Ipsos overnight showed that Sir Keir has it all to do with having... This is I had trouble reading this sentence when I actually read it the first time. Sir Keir has it all to do having already become historically unpopular. There's a sentence in there somewhere. Historically unpopular in number 10 despite initial well wishes from the public. It turns out 61% of voters are dissatisfied with Keir Starmer and just 27% are satisfied. And that makes him, after 5 months, makes him the most unpopular Prime Minister since the 1970s.
Heartfelt condolences to anyone that has to spend Christmas with that 27%.
Yeah. This is your other uncle. Last year you were just fucking mad at, like, your Tory racist uncle. This time it's like, you know, your uncle that keeps on insisting on giving you books by Alistair Campbell or something.
Yeah, your uncle with the fucking Paul Weller haircut.
Yeah. By the way, the two of them get on so well together.
Into 2025, Sir Keir will have to contend with the new geopolitical realities a Trump presidency will bring. The likely continued rise of Reform UK, efforts by the Tories to recover lost ground, and an increasingly impatient electorate keen to see the change it voted for. So the next section is from John Curtis, as Rob has said already, Britain's foremost polling guru, who identifies two reasons Sir Keir is flagging.
He brings mystical pollings from the far Orient. For fuck's sake.
Yeah, he's augured a bunch of doves, and this is what they've said. They just didn't want to open up any gap with the Tories on tax, so they were led down this particular garden path. That's weakness number one. Just a very, very defensive strategy they had before an election. It was darned obvious they were going to win.
Darn, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, it's very, very U rating of him. What did they also not do in opposition? They didn't create a story about what this government was going to be about. It's not always entirely clear that there is a common understanding among the cabinet of what this government is about. It's not clear that they have one. Starmer is a technocrat. He's not a politician.
It was pretty clear. It was pretty clear to everyone I know that the government was about doing fuck all.
No, Jamie, that's not fair. This government had one item on the agenda, and that was stomping on anyone to the left of Gordon Brown until they were red in the face. That is the only reason that this faction exists, and now that they have stomped the left into basically non-existence, the knives are turning on themselves.
I'm sorry, I don't believe that for a second. If they were going to stomp the left until they were red in the face, they could have stopped as soon as Luke Akehurst got involved.
But this is like, I mean, sorry, but this is like this man, this fucking Curtis, is always dragged out as like, you know, as the mystic polling guru who can, like, you know, channel the wills of the British people. It's like the British people are now suddenly discovering that Keir Starmer is shit. And it's like, no, it was always blindingly obvious. It was just like not in the narrative interest of the media to look at it at all, ever. Like, I'm sorry,
the
but
British
this, like,
public has never once voted in some form of anger to punish people. Not once in history have we seen that happen. Thank you, polling guru John Curtis.
I mean, I do find it funny, you know, every time I read anything like these things where it's just like, oh no, you know, the machine has been set from suck to blow. It's so sad for the Labour Party. Boo hoo hoo. But it's just like, yeah.
I mean, it does demonstrate that, like, the absolute, like, inability for, you know, Keir Starmer to do anything other than the left stomping is now so repetitive that even, like, I mean, obviously this is a Telegraph. Like even as supine as Keir Starmer's government is, they were never going to give, like, a fair hearing, whatever the fuck that is, to any kind of Labour Party, which, you know, makes Keir Starmer's supineness all that much more pathetic. But, like, even you've got, like, Polly Toynbee do that pathetic article in The Guardian about all the things that Keir Starmer and Labour could do if they weren't dog shit, if they didn't suck on every conceivable level, then things might be better. But sadly,
you might hate yourself and your life right now, but what about 2029? Have you thought of that?
Yeah,
I
what
mean,
if you
the
didn't?
thing is, though, if basic multiverse theory tells us that somewhere Keir Starmer's government is doing good things, so really, can you complain?
But Jamie, did you know that Keir Starmer believes that if he delivers, the public will say, thank you very much? Waiting times need to be falling by this time next year. The economy needs to be growing by this time next year. Any politician will tell you, you don't have to just do, you have to say. You have to persuade people that you are actually delivering. That's the bit Starmer doesn't seem to quite get. He doesn't do narrative, he doesn't do story, and this is my editorialization, and he doesn't do anything either.
Yeah, I mean, like, this is Keir Starmer should have written the wiki first. That's what this is.
I mean, like, so you've got all the stuff. So this came out earlier today. Today being Tuesday, this came out like just after lunch today, and a matter of hours after this was written, right? Is it Liz Kendall, DWP, announces that the waspy women are like, get fucked, basically. Fuck you. We don't give a shit. We don't care how miserable you are. Like, whatever arguments, like, I mean, obviously no one should have an increased pension age, just full stop. But, like, from, like, just a pure optics point of view, like, which anathema
let's
to us, right?
We're not Aaron Bastani. We're not an optics podcast. No. It's just like, you know, this.
Even on their own terms, this is insane.
When there's, I mean, I only want to be an optics podcast in the sense that there are literal photographs everywhere of all these people: Liz Kendall, Wes Streeting, Keir Starmer, Angela Rayner, Rachel Reeves, all of them having posted with the waspy women during the Tory days, saying it's a disgrace and we're going to fix this once we're in government. And I saw that brief shit.
If you've spent hundreds of millions of pounds on rakes, and you got
it is a shame not to step on them.
You don't want to see him go to waste.
Yeah, that's very true. No, you are correct in that. Yeah. No, that's absolutely right. I forgot about Britain's, you know, critical rake supply.
And that's it from the newsletter.
Yeah.
And now a word from our sponsors.
Everything
is fucking expensive.
Subscribe to Praxiscast at patreon.com/Praxiscast.
Speaking of rakes, shall we swiftly move on into the main topic? Because I'm not 100% sure, but I've become fairly confident that Labour has built one of its... I think it's a mission still. It might be a milestone at this point. I'm a little confused. You know how Labour keeps saying that they're going to build 1.5 million homes in the next 5 years because of, you know...
How could we ever forget?
Yeah, through magic.
But I mean, this is an OG mission. This is one of the ones that survived the recut of last week. It was a mission. I think it still might be one, but like this one they've been talking about for a while now. But this week,
how many layers of synonym are we at with this particular?
No, this one stayed the same. So, like, I think this is fairly so straight down the line. And look, like, we are genuinely in need of at least 1.5 million homes because there was some pretty good, if slightly terrifying, new research from the Office of National Statistics. Essentially, they did the sort of the cost of housing versus income thing for the whole country. And as it turns out that as of 2024, only the top 10% of all UK households are able to afford an average priced home across England. Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland are slightly different, so like I won't go into that. But like, yeah, unless you are in the top 10% of earners, you will not be able to get a mortgage and buy a house.
Yeah.
If you're curious, by the way, the way this is calculated is the value of the house versus a multiple of 5 of your annual income or I assume like that of you and your partner if you both co-sign the mortgage. And that 5x is, previous podcast alert, it's basically because the Financial Conduct Authority says to major banks that they're not allowed to lend much above 4.5x. So well, I mean, it's a sort of sensible thing because, like, you know, you need to put some kind of cap on the amount of money you lend to people because, you know, otherwise shit sort of goes wrong.
Yeah, obviously, but it's not that. It's the fact that they'll do this shit. They'll do this shit as part of their job because it like doesn't fuck like a big bank over or whatever, but it will fuck over people. Yeah. But when it comes to the shit they could be fucking doing, they will fucking do it.
Yeah. I mean, in England, as it stands at the moment, the current average of household earnings versus, you know, buying a house or getting a mortgage is 8.6 years. So, you know, slightly over 5 times median. I mean, 5 times median income, you're talking about 8.6. So, like, that ratio has almost doubled since 1999. So, in the last 25 years, the house prices in England have almost doubled as well. Or like your income has fallen relative to the rise of house prices to such an extent that like it's almost doubled. It's genuine insanity. Of
house
course,
prices have doubled relative to average income. Is that basically?
Yeah. So in of course the place where this is by far the worst. This is a bit from the Guardian. In London, where house prices have rocketed most in the past 2 decades, even many households in the top 10% of local earners with disposable incomes of at least £89,900 would not be able to afford an average price property in the capital.
Yeah, I believe that.
Good, fuck them. Fuck them.
Yeah,
fuck anyone that's got a fucking disposable income of 89k.
Yeah, but I don't know, whatever. But like, it's more like the point is not so much that like people make almost 90 grand a year. The point is, even if you you can't buy a house in London.
Yeah, but disposable income doesn't mean they're earning 90 grand a year, does it?
No, very much not.
I think. I mean, it's that disparity between what a lot of normal people would refer to as disposable income, which is like the money you've got left after all your bills and that, versus
and what statisticians mean by it.
Yeah, which is like the amount of money you have left after tax. Yeah.
Well,
which is still a lot of money. Don't get me wrong. 89 grand.
Get real fucking jobs, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would simply find a job with, you know, that pays at least 100 grand, like podcasters. Patreon.com/PraxisCast.
Are you withholding some information and or a bunch of money from us, Rob?
Don't make me come up there.
Yeah, so obviously all of this is incredibly fucked, and like during the rest of this, like the main
Captain
topic,
Kirk climb the mountain?
we're not going to be talking about rental properties or buy-to-lets. This is simply the situation, how it is to like try to buy a house in the UK, and you know Labour's attempt to fix that by building 1.5 million new homes. So like I'm genuinely leaving the rental sector out of this for the rest of this main topic.
Does anyone believe that even if like a miracle happens and they do build anywhere near to 1.5 million new homes, they won't just mostly be snapped up immediately by fucking landlords?
Well, I mean, yes and no. Like, I think what the future holds is we did a long time ago, we did a practice chat about this with Nick Bano. Essentially, what the future holds is not so much like small landlords, but like big corporate landlords like BlackRock and such.
Look, it's
They
Blackstone.
will be yeah, Blackstone, yeah. So let us therefore, because all the houses are so expensive and nobody can afford to buy them anymore, let us therefore build some houses, says the Labour Party. This is Starmer speaking at the 2023 Labour Party conference. Quote, "It is a future with more beautiful cities, more prosperous towns, new parks, new green spaces, new public services.
Less ugly residents."
And conference, sometimes old Labour ideas are right for new times. So where there are good jobs, where there is good infrastructure, where there is good land for affordable homes, then we will get the shovels in the ground, cranes in the sky, and build the next generation of Labour new towns. And no, this does not mean we are tearing up the green belt. So that's the promise.
So where the infrastructure already exists, because we're not building any new infrastructure. Maybe a road if you're lucky.
Yeah. But potholes, we'll fill those.
Yeah. This town was once an entire pothole.
We have always lived in the pothole.
Yeah, a bunch of crabs live in that pothole.
Yeah, so if you remember anything from all these stupid mantras from the Labour Party, this is where you get all this stuff from about the Labour is the party of the builders, not the blockers. If that makes rings any bells to all of you. So like I've on previous podcasts about my question marks about, because they never say like social housing or council housing. They always talk about affordable homes, because as previously discussed, there are no affordable homes in England, except like, I don't know, probably in a bunch of like dying northwestern seaside towns, but then there are no infrastructure and no jobs, so why would you move there? And apparently, I've just found this out. This is, according to the BBC at least, the official definition of an affordable home is one that is priced at 80% of like market value of the houses around it.
What?
Yeah.
I think
or 80% of market value.
Right. Okay.
So in this analogy, an affordable home in London is still not an affordable home to the top 20% of earners, because they're still way over the 5x multiple of yearly income to mortgage, like size of mortgage that we were just talking about.
I do like how like we've just made it so that the housing bubble is so enormous that even like, what if we reduce the housing bubble by a literal fifth? No, still enormous, still gigantic, still impossible.
Yes, still insane. And what's happened this week, which is why Angela Rayner was on the telly a lot, is what they're doing is they're rewriting the main planning framework document for the whole country. This is called the National Planning Policy Framework, and it's literally the document that tells the country and councils and local authorities how much houses they are supposed to be building every year, and like what restrictions and so on and so forth are on that. It's the big piece of paper that tells like the country what is to be built and where, and like at what mix of social versus private, rented versus owned, and so on and so forth. It will also introduce things that we've talked about on previous podcasts, if you remember, which is grey belt land. That's, turning old industrial sites and, abandoned gas stations into delightful new housing. We talked about that on a previous podcast. Can't remember which one. Yeah. Sorry, we've done 308 or 306 if you're following the notes.
Isn't the see the you must build so much private and so much social? Isn't that now the case that the social stuff is lumped in with affordable, so you can actually get
a lot of the time it
social?
Is. It's very difficult to unpick when they mean actual council housing or when they mean the council will finance some of it to turn it into an affordable home, which isn't affordable because you still can't afford it. Like, even if you're in, like, that one that you might be able to afford if you're on the top 50% of the income distribution.
Yeah. All those houses that we spoke about a few weeks ago now, that just weren't really getting built anymore because all the housing associations had went, oh, sorry, no money left.
Yes. So
Quality.
anyway, like I said, there's a 1.5 million homes to be built, which is, let's assume this Labour Party stays in government for 5 years. So therefore 300,000 homes a year. However, the building industry won't hit its target next year because you need to, get that sort of shit sort of revved up over the term. So you have to assume that quite a bit of it will be backloaded to the end of the parliament, because for reasons that we'll get into later, next year nobody's going to build 300,000 homes. It will not be happening.
It also just assumes that the privately owned house building companies are going to build the houses at that rate.
Yes,
to keep up with that, averaging 300,000 a year. Why would they? If it would mean that their profits go down, it's just they're not going to.
Yeah, no. Well, we'll get into the private house builders in a little bit, but that is one of the prime reasons why they will not do it, because it would cut into their profit margins. The thing is, and I had genuinely forgotten about this, but if you have a better brain than me, you might remember that 300,000 homes a year was also a promise from the Conservative Party back when Michael Gove was in charge of housing. He later made it an advisory rather than a mandatory target when he too found out it is impossible to build 300,000 homes a year when you're relying on the private sector to do all that, essentially.
Beautiful.
If, by the way, you were curious to know what the Tories think of that exact same target that they themselves set 2 years ago, this is from The Guardian. This is the only time I'm going to mention the Tory response, because, quite frankly, who gives a shit about them? The Conservatives accused the government of waging a war on rural England, with Shadow Housing Secretary Kevin Hollinrake claiming that most of the 1.5 million proposed new homes would be going to migrants.
Oh my god, it's like the two stupidest people in the world screaming at each other over nothing.
Yes. If you were curious, but further curious, by the way, according to existing government statistics, depending on how you do the math, I've read a couple of sources that say it slightly differently. Over the last decade, the average of home building, including the sort of lower building during Corona, obviously, was somewhere between 175 to 200,000 a year. So in the last decade, we have never, not once, come even remotely close to building 300,000 homes. This, of course, didn't stop Angela Rayner, who in July was bragging to Parliament that the government might even be more ambitious and might want to build 370,000 homes a year.
Yeah, they want to, but they won't.
Yeah. Do it then. Do it, you fucking coward.
and one more thing, because I messaged this to David this afternoon, because I was going slightly insane, is the interesting question is also if you say you want to build 1.5 million homes and you want to distribute them across the country in a certain way, the question that naturally arises, at least to me, is where do you get those targets from, and how do you then set them across the country? So this is a bit from a good article on the BBC. So the way it was done before, under the Tories, was that essentially housing targets are largely based on projections on how many people will live in any given area in the next few years. Which, that kind of makes sense. If you're a local council, you say the population growth in our area is X over the next 5 years. Therefore, we will need Y new homes. That's kind of that makes sense, right? That's kind of logical. Mm-hmm. So step one, what the Tories did was they simply said, well, we don't care about those projections anymore. The only ones that matter for us are in 2014, and that's the one we're going to base all our policy on. Because if we keep admitting that more housing is needed, then our backlog will be even bigger. So therefore, if we just use old numbers, our failures won't seem so bad projected into the future.
Oh man, so we're going to do to population projections what we did to fucking council tax in 1989 or whatever.
Yes, essentially, we're just locking that shit out. This was the Tories' mind, so we expect nothing less than
shit from them.
Than chicanery and shit housing and fudging the numbers. Instead, Labour has said we will not be doing that anymore. They have, on the other hand, again, I'm quoting from the BBC article, a whole new level of batshit insanity of how to build where the houses are going to go. Quote, Labour wants the targets for new homes to be based on the current number of houses in an area and how affordable those properties are, rather than the number of people expected to be living there in years to come.
What? No, but the affordability of a home is based on the price of all the homes in its area. This is circular logic. No, you'll break the spreadsheet, you fucking fools.
So what you get? This is a genuine like target that's been set. I got it from another piece on the BBC. So Westmoreland and Furness Council, which is not in London or Liverpool or near a major urban area, like it's not an explosive growth area, to put it mildly. But what it does have is a certain number of houses in the area, but those properties are very affordable because it's not a well-to-do area. So that council, which is currently has a house building target per year of 227 new homes, which is kind of reasonable, is now being demanded to produce 1,500.
Rob, wait, are you saying that it's not build more houses where houses are unaffordable to make it easier to get a house? It's build more houses where they are cheaper.
It's built. And sorry, just one more thing about Westmoreland and Furness, then I'll shut up about it. Westmoreland and Furness is also encompasses more than half the Lake District National Parks, where you cannot build.
Christ alive.
Just build the houses in the lakes.
Yeah.
But this is insane.
It's called seasteading. Look it up.
Finally, a house we can easily sell to fucking Aquaman.
Well, I mean, you think you could, but then I remember reading a couple pieces earlier this year about how the water companies are using Windermere Lake as like a main sewage outflow, so everything there is dead and it stinks now.
I love
Which is how the aqua houses are so affordable, I suppose. Anyway, but the sheer insanity of we're not going to build the houses where people actually want and need them because there's jobs and things there. It's just no, we're going to just base it on the number of houses that are already in a given area and the affordability scale. So even if you build all the houses, you're going to be building them in places where the spatial logic of capitalism doesn't want to have them.
How else are you going to house all of these homeless Potemkins?
Yeah. So I thought I'd be, uncharacteristically, but I thought I'd be a little bit fair and
Fuck you. Boo.
No, because I thought I'd look at they keep talking about we are the party of the builders, not the blockers. I thought let's have a look at who, at least according to the Labour Party and the government, are the blockers. Who are these people? These mystical
Wes
people.
Streeting the fucking coward's a blocker. Unblock.
Yes. And what they mainly mean, at least what the Labour Party mainly means, is councils or local opposition to new homes in councils. Which, as the planning system currently works, councils have to approve new builds, which makes a lot of sense, right? But of course, if your council is full of rural Tories and Jeremy Clarksons or Lib Dems, etc., or NIMBYs for whatever reason, if they don't want 10,000 new builds in their council area, then if the council says no, it becomes a giant pain in the ass to to reverse that decision. It can be very expensive because then you have to sue if you're not the government. So part of what Angela Rayner's office, the Ministry for Housing, is doing now is they're saying, well, the ministry will get way more powers to overrule councils when they say, no, we don't want this. Then the ministry will simply say, yeah, shut up, and we're doing it anyway. Which, that's good and bad. Look, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where, on a case-by-case basis, that may be good or bad, depending on the justification, so...
Yeah, so I'm not necessarily against this. I think this could maybe be good, whatever. However, some councils, because all this stuff, of course, gets announced very long in advance, have have seen the Labour government coming, and this is from a planning consultancy called Litchfields. Quote, South Staffordshire Council has reduced its annual housing target by more than 40%. Hertsmere Council by 25%. So what those councils have been doing right before Labour came into power, they artificially reduced their housing demand. So Labour, when it jacks them back up, only jacks them back up to like normal, quote unquote, and not supercharges it.
Smart.
Which, again, I don't know those councils. They could be good. They could be shit. Like, there could be reasons. I have no idea. But this is the kind of fuckery that's, like, in the game, essentially.
Yeah. And, like, it's on the Labour Party to not fucking accept that. But they will, because they're useless, spineless, gutless cunts.
Yes. The other idea is, again, this is, like, if you read the stuff, and I've spent quite a bit of time reading about this stuff, the other big set of words you're going to hear is planning passports. Basically, this is like a sort of predetermined list of
passports. Fuck off.
Did Tony Blair invent this idea?
So basically, this is like a predetermined list of sort of design and quality standards that, if met, legally or like regulatorily speaking, it would make it a lot harder for councils to say no because they have a planning passport. That's kind of how that works. It's not very interesting, but just as an as an aside, and also because of the horrible names, I thought I'd mention it.
Thanks.
However, so that's part one. The part of the blockers are the councils, which may or may not be true. The other one, at least according to the BBC, is the actual builders, the developers, because according to the BBC, the fall in like the amount of applications for new builds doesn't so much like come from councils saying no. It comes from developers, private developers, Barratt Homes and whatnot, simply not asking for permission for new homes. So it might not be the councils, it could be the people building the houses that are the problem.
And
Wow.
and
That would be
Labour
a
are
shocker.
determined to find a carrot big enough.
Probably, yeah. I mean, the whole thing with the math is like who's going to pay for all this is like massively question mark. But what I do know is that, again, according to the BBC, the number of applications has dropped from about 25,000 applications a year in 1974 to about 11,000 in 2024. So over a 50-year period, the number of requests for new builds, and this is essentially during the entire wave of when we privatized everything and like government doesn't build a fucking house anymore. Over that same period, the amount of requests for new developments has halved. So maybe councils aren't actually to blame. Maybe it is the housing developers. So what the BBC did is they went and asked the Federation of House Builders. I can't remember what they're called at the moment, FBH or FHB, whatever. And they say go something like this: people aren't buying new homes because they're too expensive, and therefore if they're too Therefore, if they're too expensive, we won't build them because nobody will buy them. Then they say housing associations, who are like the because councils don't do it anymore, but housing associations still do. But they aren't building new homes because they're spending too much money fixing their existing stock of shithouse, cheap build Barratt homes that fall apart, the second they're ready. And landlords, that sort of the last source of house building contracts, aren't building it anymore because the legislation and around, especially financial regulations around landlordism, have changed for the worse for landlords in the last few years. Therefore, there's also no more demand from landlords for new houses.
From the landlord's point of view, it's negative, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Basically, what they are saying is because there's less demand overall, we build less, which
in order to keep the price high.
Exactly, very much so, yeah. And like I said, it's also really expensive to appeal against the local authority if they do deny planning permission, which is essentially private construction firms only appeal and go through like a litigious process if they have a lot of money up front or if the expected profits of the new build are too good to pass up. But for the average process, if the council says no, then the private housing builder simply walks away because they cannot afford to like sue against the council. It's too much of a pain in the ass, essentially. So then there's like the third thing that we'll talk about, that at least according to the Labour government is the problem, and that is newts and bats and the environment, essentially. Angela Rayner was on TV a lot saying,
this shit.
like, yes, this shit. And what they're mainly talking about is like they talk about some specific pieces of like natural protection, but I think what they're mainly talking about is the greenbelt, which is the thing that everybody always talks about. Yimbys always whine about the greenbelt. So basically what the greenbelt is, because I didn't know and I thought I should, at least familiarize myself, is the greenbelt is a series of planning laws from the mid-1950s that are still part of this national planning framework. And very roughly speaking, it exists to constrict urban sprawl, mainly around the big cities. So London, Manchester, Birmingham, Leeds, Newcastle. That's like around the big conurbations in the UK. You cannot endlessly expand outwards. That is its stated goal. Like nature protection, despite the words greenbelt, only comes into it later.
Yeah, I mean, we've already sort of like, the bits that we are building on already, like, or are farming already. Those are already, environments that we have altered forever.
Yeah.
So
yes. So there's sort of there's 5 main points to it. Basically, it's part of the Greenbelt's point is to provide actual green spaces, because it's also not just an environmental thing in terms of like newts and badgers. It's also about air quality and things of this nature. It's just to provide actual green spaces in and around urban areas. It's to stop towns from endlessly merging into one another. Like London, which has like eaten a shit ton of villages that used to be around it. It is to protect the countryside, i.e. it is also meant to protect farmland and farmers specifically from, cities growing into arable land. And it is also, and this is the sort of famous Tory thing, and I think this is also what they're very much talking about as the blockers, is the idea of the Greenbelt is also to preserve the historic character of towns. So if it looks really nice and is made of sandstone, then you can't build in it because you will ruin the character of the thing.
I mean, what's the percentage of houses that are... what's the percentage of houses that are unoccupied at any given time? It's like 4 or 5% or something like that, isn't it?
I don't know off the top of my head. I mean, I know it's a bit higher in London because that's like a lot of those are like investment properties and not for living in. But I don't know what the like empty thing is.
Last I checked, I think it was around 4 or 5%. Like
it could, it sounds plausible to me. I haven't looked it up, but that sounds about right. Off the top of my head. So, like, essentially, but those are like the 3 things that the government says are the problem: councils, developers, and the Greenbelt. Which I'm not gonna look. I think talking about the blockers, not the builders, or the builders, not the blockers, is like garbage language. But these are some.
It's Boris Johnson shit.
Yeah, but it is some realistic things that do contribute to the problem of housing overall. But do you reckon? I think I can work out some other things that might be a big fucking problem that the Labour government chooses not to talk about. And the main thing is the government doesn't build homes. We have essentially stopped doing that. That is the biggest one, essentially. Like, there's a handful of major...
doing that in like the 80s?
50s? No, 80s.
Was it that recent?
Weirdly enough, surprisingly maybe, but it coincides with the arrival of Margaret Thatcher.
Up to her old tricks again.
Yeah, there she is.
My point is that the government doesn't build homes. The government, at best, will contract out some private dickheads to do it for them.
Yes.
At a hugely increased fucking markup.
Yeah, so... and again, like Alistair, you've been saying a bunch of times, if you're a private housing construction company, why would you ever build so many homes as to lower the price of the houses you are selling? Because it doesn't, I get that you can take a small cut in profit on every individual house if you build like a shit ton more of them. But at the volume we're talking about to like make a dent in the UK housing market, no housing company in the UK is big enough or like would even want to eat that kind of loss. It doesn't exist. Can't happen.
Yeah, in order to like, it's essentially a deadlock of, in order to build houses, or to build like, in order to bring the price of houses down, you need to build lots of houses. But building lots of houses brings the price down.
Yes,
and guess
exactly.
what? Guess fucking what? Guess what? Fucking a lower price on a house means. It means the fucking profit margin is reduced.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it also means some other things, but I want to like get into that at the end because I think that's like a really sort of critical point. But mainly what it means is because of also the dependency on things like interest rates, because you're talking about borrowing a lot. Developers borrow, you borrow to build the house. What it means, and this is from a piece in the BBC, they quote a housing author and journalist called Peter Bill, quote, "The number of houses that are constructed is much more closely aligned with GDP growth than it is with the wishes of politicians to get them built." So if economy do good and interest rate low, build homes.
If your construction sector is entirely, in the private sector, and there's basically little to no public sector construction, then of course, because you're going to have higher GDP means, you've got more abundance of resources and you
can borrow more money. You can exactly. So the other thing that, because we are currently living in the inverse situation with a very high interest rate and low economic growth, Barratt Homes, they asked, them for their plans for next year in relation to this Labour targets thing. They have already said that they will build significantly less homes than they have in 2024, which was already a low year because, quote Barratt Homes, cost of living pressures, much higher mortgage rate and limited consumer confidence, which is hurting housing demand. Because, of course, if you're in the private sector, those things matter very, very much. Because if you build houses and then they don't shift, you have a fucking problem.
Yeah, when does an asset become a liability? Oh, when you're a fucking piece of shit private company.
Yes. Yeah. So basically, and this is also according to a long study by the Competitions and Markets Authority, another one of my pals, which did a big study into whether or not large house builders like Barratt. I keep using Barratt Homes, but it's because I keep forgetting the names of the others. But swap in any of the
also because they've got it
homes
fucking coming.
Like. Yes.
Other cunts are available.
Yes. Into like the large house builders in the UK. This is one of the conclusions that the CMA drew. Quote, "The evidence shows that private developers produce houses at a rate at which they can be sold without needing to reduce their prices, rather than diversifying the types and numbers of homes that need to be built to meet the needs of different communities. Brackets, for example, providing more affordable housing." So this is just like...
What?
Yeah, statistical evidence of what we knew already.
Damn,
But it's nice.
Someone just went and wrote it down. Holy fuck.
Yeah. The other thing that gets brought up a lot in this discussion, and at least according to the CMA is less of a problem you might think, is this idea of land banking. Private developers buy land to develop on, then don't do it and sort of just like sit on the land and wait for the house prices in the area to go up before they start building on it, like speculatively, basically. The CMA does say this is not really a problem. Quote again from their report, "The CMA assessed over 1 million plots of land held by various house builders and found that the practice of banking land was more of a symptom identified with the complex planning system and speculative private development rather than it being the primary reason for the shortage of new homes." So yes, it is a problem. It can be a bit speculative, but the main thing is like the developer does need to buy the land. And sometimes they buy the land before the planning permission is complete, and then they're stuck with it, quote unquote stuck with it.
It feels a little bit like this is a side effect of the previous paragraph.
Yeah, it is just like when I was reading about this, a lot of people a lot of the time talk about this land banking business. I think it's like contributory, but not main, at least from what I gather from all of this.
It's an
incredibly obvious fucking outcome from a system that works the way it does, though. Like, obviously this shit will happen, and obviously it's going to have a bad effect.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Barratt Homes and you bought a huge plot of land and like literally anything comes up, which means that you might not be able to build on that land in a profitable amount of time, if you like, then surely you're going to hold on to it until it does become profitable.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
that's just how it
Yeah,
works.
this is what happens when you allow speculation to occur in any sort of market at all. It just results in things becoming unavailable because, that might be worth something more one day, and nothing gets fucking done with it. Like, it's exactly the same reason that the economy has problems with the holding of fucking wealth in the first place.
Yes. So, but basically, like in Labour's most optimistic scenario, right? And I'm going to be like sort of the credulous Rube here for a moment. Like, by 28, 29, their reform agenda works like a treat. GDP growth is the highest in the G7. People have jobs. The interest rate is low again because we have all this, all this clean energy, and
your
carbon
dick
capture
works,
is a
your wife's
success.
back
And
with you.
exactly, all that stuff. So even if all that happened and the mortgage and the interest rates came back to down to 1 or 2%, like it did in the free money era of 5 to 10 years ago, even then, commercial house builders, private house builders, do not have any interest in building so much housing that it hurts prices. And if we are to ever get out of this housing shortage in the UK, we need so many more houses that you must, by necessity, hurt the house price. It cannot be done any other way.
I mean,
it must be done.
so blind. It's so fucking blindingly obvious that if you want more people to be in homes, there need to be more homes available that are affordable. And
Yes.
in order to get more houses or more affordable, you need to build more houses cheaper.
But currently, financially speaking, there is no incentive for the private sector to do any of that, ever.
Yeah, no. Why would they?
Of course there fucking isn't. There never is. Why would there ever be a fucking incentive for them to build things and sell it for cheap?
Yeah,
It's
when I walk into Tesco, I'm always asking myself, why do they not sell me the 24-pack of Coke Zero for free? Like, it's ridiculous.
Why am I not being paid for being here? It's ridiculous. Fuck off. You can't reform this. This is not a market that can be reformed.
No.
It's not a system that can be reformed. All housing must be taken into fucking government ownership and then used appropriately as such. Fuck.
But there is also a much more practical problem, which is even if there were all of these restrictions that we were just talking about were removed, we have another very substantial problem is we don't have people anymore that build houses. We don't have tradespeople who do this anymore. Essentially, well, we have them, but not nearly enough.
Yeah.
I mean, this is neoliberalism. This is where we have come to. Every single sector that had anything you would reasonably quantify as a skill, whether that is the engineers themselves who design all this stuff and say put those bricks, put those put that rebar there, that shit.
This
or
load bearing wall can have X pounds instead of Y pounds, and please make sure you don't fuck that up.
Yeah, and all the people who actually know
No, steals now.
all the people who actually pour the concrete around the rebar, these people just have either retired or moved abroad, basically, because there is little to no infrastructure or just development of anything in any reasonable capacity. This is a big part of why HS2. We're always coming back to HS2.
Yeah, everything comes back to trains.
Everything comes back to trains because, the people who work on HS2 could, in theory, if we were so inclined, continue building railways. Because it's not the only railway that needs to be built. It's the same thing with housing.
Yeah. So the piece from the quote from the BBC: the UK does not have enough construction workers to build the 1.5 million homes the government has promised, industry leaders warn. Tens of thousands of new recruits are needed for bricklaying, groundworks, carpentry to get anywhere near the target, they told the BBC. The Home Builders Federation, that's the people I was looking for before, along with the UK's largest house builder, Barratt Redrow, said skills shortages, ageing workers and Brexit were some of the factors behind the shrinking workforce. The government confirmed there was a...
fuck up.
Yeah, but they are right about this. These part of the problem is
about this, and that these are all the fucking smaller portions of it. I have these symptoms. No, motherfucker, you have a fucking disease. The disease is called capitalism. This is what happens.
People. Yeah.
Yeah, it turns out paying people a decent wage to have skills like laying bricks, and joinery and carpentry and all this good stuff. If we paid these people or paid people enough money to want to go into these trades, then that it's not good. It's not good for the big number on my spreadsheet, which is green at the moment.
Yeah. And I'm not taking fucking... and Brexit has caused part of the problem. Why? Did it make your cheap labour really fucking difficult to get? Oh, how awful for you fucking pricks.
But, I mean, look, I briefly saw some numbers, and I can't quote them fully off the top of my head, but, like, if you're as, like... skilled bricklayers, skilled builders, and especially, like, carpenters and plumbers... for new builds, they make quite good livings. I saw numbers floating between like 35 and 45,000 a year. Like, not great, but that's it's not bad money for
it's a fucking livable wage.
It's a livable wage, so it's
talk about.
Sure. I think the much bigger problem is, like, as a society, and certainly since the 90s, and looking at you, Tony Blair, is that, like, since the 90s, since the 80s, we've said pretty much to the whole society that going into a trade, becoming a builder or becoming a bricklayer or, all of that stuff is no longer something that you should aspire to be. What you need to do is everybody go to university and then work in the knowledge sector, and that's an important sector. I'm not knocking it. But we have a load of people who maybe shouldn't have been to university and should have just, like... have pride in their trade, which is incredibly important.
I could have and should have absolutely fucked off out of school at 16 and went and got a fucking trade. And everyone told me that would be such a waste. Yeah. I could be living the fucking high life right now if I'd just done what I fucking thought I should have done at the time. But
going into an apprenticeship in podcasting.
Yeah, I had to go fucking, like, very rapidly meet fucking undiagnosed ADHD at second year of fucking university and not do much for like 15, 20 fucking years after. Like, no, fuck off. Like, this is it. This is what happens when you do this kind of shit. People can do different things. People don't have to go to fucking university. There's nothing wrong with getting a fucking trade. There's nothing wrong with making a fucking career at working in the fucking hospitality industry, for fuck's sake. But no, that is actually just an industry for fucking children and failures, as I've had it described to me before, while working in the fucking industry.
Fuck me. Yeah.
Yes.
It's like, I don't know, it's like fucking skilled professions. It's like, I don't know, like building is one, but it's, I mean, like, you go into like any... if you can still fucking find one, but like a half-decent butcher shop, do you know how fucking difficult it is to like take literally half a cow and make it into chunks that people buy and eat at speed with sharp knives? That's really fucking difficult. That's a craft, that's a trade.
AI will handle it, it's fine.
I think we can draw a line under this. There's no such thing as unskilled labor. I think that's
absolutely yeah. So according to, again, this is the Home Building Federation, so this is the lobby for the Barratt homes, but this is the numbers I could find, and they are still interesting. So we'll do like a little bit of basic math if you bear with me. For every 10,000 new homes, extra homes on top of the stuff that we're already building, you need about 30,000 new recruits. So about 3 per house. That sounds about reasonable. If you want to build...
to be honest, that sounds like less than I thought it would be.
Yeah, but like those people build one house and then they move on to the next one. So let's assume 3 per house, right? You don't need like 3 generalists. You need about 12 different trades that are all involved to some measure in constructing a new house. So assuming those numbers are true... and the gap between, the target that the government has set, which is 300,000, and the actual number of houses that are currently being built, which for the moment, let's say, is about 170,000, which it was 2023 and 2022. So that means about like, essentially you need 130,000 new homes on top of the stuff that we're already doing so that we can do with the existing labor force. Assume 3 extra, recruits, new apprentices in all these different trades per house. So that's about 390,000, let's say 400,000 new skilled builders or apprentice builders that we will need between right now and 2029, 2020, and 2030 if we are to have the manpower to even build the houses, and that's before materials and everything else that we tack on top of that.
Yeah,
so it's
but
400.
This sounds like a job for skills wallets.
Have you considered, Rob, though, that see when they finish building all those houses, they won't need to build anymore, and the mission will be complete, and then all of these people will be out of jobs because we don't need to build any more houses.
Yeah, their next job could be in cyber.
Well, actually, David,
good.
Fairly strong shot. These guys will all stay in their professions for life because, according to some of the numbers that I've read, a quarter of the current builders are aged over 50. So they're going to pass out of the profession the next 10 years because building is a physically, demanding profession. You can't do that until you're 75.
Which is fine. But what happens when we hit mission accomplished? Are you telling me that we won't hit mission accomplished? Because I don't think Keir Starmer would set a target like that.
I think he might set a milestone like that. I don't think he'd set a priority or a target like that.
Can I upgrade that to a pledge?
Yeah. But don't worry, though. The government has recognised that there is a real and growing, massive gap between the demand for labour and the existing labour pool. This again, BBC. Last month, the government announced 140 million of funding to create 5,000 more construction apprenticeship places per year and established home building skills hubs to fast-track training.
Oh my god.
So assuming
is it just the YTS but worse? Like is it even fucking close to the YTS?
I have no idea what the fuck that was supposed to be. Like, these notes are long enough without me like digging into what the fuck they mean by a home building skills hub. I assume what they mean is like we concentrate the educational places in certain specific places so we can train more people, or we build a couple of new education sites, something like that.
It's a little locker that the apprentices can put their wallet in while they go to work.
Yeah, but on the back end they can learn IT skills, so it's a dual purpose college, if you will. But look, even again, being optimistic and putting on my little the rosette that makes you stupid.
Your little builder hat with a fucking propeller on top.
The rosette that makes you stupid. Assuming all that works exactly perfectly, right? And we started and they've already started. They don't have to build the hub. The hub's already there, and we're ready to go tomorrow. If they say 5,000 more extra places a year, you would have 25,000 extra places by 2030. And since the basic math says we need 400,000, well, that just means we're 375,000 skilled workers short to build the 1.5 million new homes. I can't see a problem. We're done here.
And I can't help but feel like that 140 million, like, that is just going to disappear into some fucking recruiter's back pocket somewhere. Because I mean, the just rank disgusting levels of poverty wages that apprentices get paid is outrageous. I can't remember the last time I spoke to someone contemporaneously on an apprenticeship, but I had a friend who did an apprenticeship, not in construction, mind you, but it's £3 an hour in 2010, completely ridiculous.
It's still a completely dog shit wage. I'm sure it's still sub £5.
Yeah. How are you meant to raise a family on that? How are you meant to exist? Pay
buy a
rent?
house.
Oh well, yeah, fuck that. you can build the houses, but you sure as fuck can't live in one.
Can't live in them. Yeah. So anyway, the last thing I wanted to talk about in terms of the problems that this government does not want to talk about is so now, and I've briefly already mentioned Barrow and Furness Council. So now the government has set these mandatory house building targets, and they also say if you don't do this, we will step in and make it happen. So they also published a list of which councils are gonna how many councils are going to build how many homes, essentially. So about 90 councils in the UK, Tory, Lib Dem and Labour, will have their building targets doubled or more so. And like I said, if they don't, then Labour has threatened to Whitehall takes direct control to grant permissions. Again, you can grant all the permission you like. If Barratt Home doesn't see profit, they still won't fucking do it. But,
Yeah, so what incentive is there then for them to actually go in the first place, we should comply with this? It sounds
Well, I
like
mean-
it would be more effort to do that. It would be easier to just go, fucking make me.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's kind of what's happening, but also because this is now centrally run. And look, I'm very wary of saying all local government is always better than non-local government and everything should be small, because then you're like becoming a towns person, and I fucking hate that. I think big scales are very important for a lot of reasons. But so the Times and the BBC spoke to a bunch of councils who now have their targets like doubled, or, you know, like I said, in the Barrow and Furness Council had it from 227 to almost 1,500, so 6 times over, sextupled.
I imagine a bunch of these councils are going to be like, well, we couldn't even have met the original target, so like, what's the point?
Also that, yeah. So this is one of them. This is the Labour leader of Broxtowe
A
Council.
Labour council?
Again, I don't know if these councils are good or bad or shit, or, you know, I don't know the individual
Labour,
circumstance of this council.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna, but like I'm just gonna take them at their word, just because it's kind of exemplary to like a bunch of other people who are saying similar things from different councils. Quote:
Still not too
this is
off your hard hat then.
this is again the leader of Broxtowe Council, Milan Radulovic. Quote, the figures the Labour government is giving us are not sustainable. They are not deliverable. They will lead to disappointment. They're all setting us up for failure, and we will continue with the same housing crisis in 5 years that we had 5 years' time, that we've had 5 years ago, and that we have right now.
Do you know what? In a year's time, I'm sure everyone will be very understanding of why the housing crisis is in exactly the same state it is right now and has been since time immemorial, and the polls will be very forgiving.
Yes. Well, I mean, that's, you know, if we just put it in Polly Toynbee's long list of ifs, and one day we'll be fine. So, like, this is not the only council that's saying this. Lots of them are saying the exact same thing. Like, they might be blockers or like people, you know, Tory-led weirdos who don't want more houses, but some of them may actually also have like actual local experience that some dickhead in the Ministry of Housing does not have. This is, I thought, a nice example. Again, this is a Labour-led council. Again, I don't know if they're good or bad. I don't know if they're realistic. I'm just taking them at their word for now. In Staffordshire Moorlands, the target has almost tripled from 159 homes a year to 454. Quote the deputy leader of the Labour-led council, it's a very challenging figure. It was a challenging figure to deliver before this. A third of our district is Greenbelt, and another third is in the Peak District National Park. The amount of land that we have that is developable is not great. We have steep hills, difficult sites, and a whole host of reasons why development here is not easy. But, you know, if you just do it from central government, you just see some numbers on the spreadsheet and then say you do it or fuck you.
I've played enough City Builders to know that when you put the little blueprint of the house down on the side of the mountain, it just snaps into the right shape.
Yep.
Even if it is basically like a sheer face, it's absolutely fine. You just got to wiggle the road up and down the side of the cliff face just to get to your house. That's all, and that's fine.
Just build cliff explosives.
Yeah. Equip the meteor tool.
This is genuinely not far from the attitude of the Labour Party, because the Times had an incredible quote. One senior Labour MP in a semi-rural seat said of the concerns by councils, quote, I could not care less. Places in West Places in West Lancashire complaining that they don't have enough space is incredible. I would encourage anyone to go on Google Maps and judge that for yourself.
Will do.
Yes. That's incredible.
It gets even crazier because, you know,
the adults are back in charge.
Yes. And they've been playing a lot of City Skyline. Yeah.
Yeah, more workers and resources and less city skylines.
So this motherfucker dropping straight onto a fucking stratagem scrambler.
I've built a road between my two villages and I can harvest more sheep. This is going great. Anyway, so it gets even more insane. So according to, like I said, the new revised national planning framework thing that was released this week, or announced this week at least, between now, if this episode comes out on Thursday, between the day you're hearing this, all councils in England will have exactly 12 weeks, including the Christmas break, to update all of their local plans, and I assume find the physical space for all these houses in 12 weeks.
Hell.
Which I'm sure they will.
They should just get on Google Maps.
Gets slightly more incredible. This is, again, from the BBC. The new housing targets are apparently also just that. They are just housing targets. They don't take into account whether or not things like local infrastructure can even deal with, roads, hospitals, schools, shopping malls, whatever the fuck. Whether or not they can deal with the influx of people if they all arrive in the numbers that the Labour government said they should.
I mean, this is just a fucking catastrophe waiting to happen. What if we took the housing crisis and just kind of took all this fire in this one place and sort of moved it wherever? Just put it all over the place. What could fucking go wrong?
Well, I mean, there is one answer for a lot of quite flat land that is easily convertible into construction sites, and that's farmland, arable farmland. But I don't know, those guys seem a little grumpy at the moment already. So and also I don't know if it's a good idea to build on your best farmland, which.
This is like when you're playing Democracy 4 or whatever, and you've pissed off the farmers so much they are now doing active assassination attempts on you.
Yes. So I want to talk about one more thing before we stop talking about this. So there was a good piece in The Guardian by a journalist called John Ungood Thomas. I hope I pronounced that right. That sort of looks into my, and I was like, I think, if I'm looking into my big orb of the future, I think this might be part of the solution for Labour to fudge the numbers and they still won't get to 300,000, but they'll get closer with this one weird trick. Quote the article, Labour has been accused of allowing developers to build a new generation of slum homes by converting office blocks into flats without planning permission.
This is that fucking porridge-faced cunt that comes up to the north and turns buildings into fucking HMOs, isn't it?
Oh, Samuel Leeds.
That's the cunt, aye.
The controversial projects will boost Keir Starmer's drive to build 1.5 million new homes in England, but have been labelled as a free-for-all for developers. Many commercial blocks are built on industrial estates or in business parks, with complaints of poor ventilation and no access to private outdoor spaces. Because, guess what? Converted, office blocks are often in industrial estates or on business parks.
I'll tell you what, I used to live in a converted
Oh, did you?
office block.
How was that?
Yeah.
Fun?
I mean, it was what was interesting was seeing in the local paper one time that they had closed down a brothel that was one floor down from us. I was like, cool, didn't know that was there.
Didn't even get the residency discount. Yeah,
I felt like I missed a trick there.
So this, in its, I think this is a official name. This is the Office to Residential scheme, and it is essentially creating new tower blocks. Up and down the land.
You've heard of working at home. How about homing at work?
Yeah. So I mean, look, I did have some friends of mine who during uni were they got really cheap deals to live in ex-office blocks for a while before they were torn down. And then, they lived there for super cheap, but they also said that it was horrendous because there's no insulation, the water mains were not where you wanted them to be. It was just kind of if you're a student, it's shitty, but it's cheap. So, In
Glasgow, we call that student accommodation.
I had two friends who lived because it's not as formal tenants, but I think it was called a guardianship or something in an abandoned orphanage. Which sounded extremely fucking creepy.
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
Homework's haunted.
Yeah. So if you remember, there were a lot of complaints during and right after COVID about how everybody had to go back to work because, the Prets were no longer full and there were a lot of commercial lets that were sitting empty. Well, this is a solution for that problem as well. for commercial landlords instead of private landlords, because now the one can become the other. It is, unsurprisingly, maybe, originally a Tory scheme that they will continue just running, even though when they were in opposition, and see if this sounds familiar, Labour said many, many times that they would stop this scheme because it was, dehumanizing and not providing quality housing for everybody.
Residents told to face the bloodshed.
Quote again the article. A number of projects have previously been exposed for delivering rabbit hutch-style homes, with some flats built without windows. Others offered only the space of a typical bedroom. Residents at one scheme, Newbury House in Ilford, East London, were described as being packed in like sardines in flats measuring as little as 3.6 meters by 3.6 meters, 12 feet by 12 feet. They also complained of poor ventilation. But that is a house that you've built, and it does go towards the target.
I think built is doing a lot of heavy lifting there.
Converted. They put, the storage cupboard now has an individual lock that not every person can get into.
These things have got to be handy for, the local fucking business park. Imagine if you could get, a house in one office and then a job in the one next door.
Yeah.
If we fix the commute.
Yeah. A 1.5 minute city, if you will, Jamie.
Yeah, we should simply return to company towns.
Yeah, the little burger van at the bottom of the road. Yeah. Sorted.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. If we put that burger van inside the Freeport, then all our problems are sorted.
Live in the burger van.
Yeah. Camper van, but
live in the Freeport?
Yeah. Put your camper van with the big Friolator in the Freeport, and then all your worries are simply done. Anyway, let me tell you, we may have hinted it during this episode before, but let me tell you the secret actual solution that exists out there in the wild. Quote again the BBC, for most of the 20th century, councils played a big role in building housing, delivering up to 80% of all homes in some years, but between 1980 and the 2000s, social housing delivery plummeted as the governments opted for privatization. The secret answer behind door number 3... Yeah. Is to not do this through the private sector, because for many of the reasons mentioned above, they will not do they will not do it, and also they cannot do it because of the lack of builders and all that stuff. The last time there was actually once upon a time, 1 or 2 years I think, where we did build 300,000 homes in a year, and that was on the Harold Wilson in 1970, and a lot of those were council homes, like a lot of them.
I mean, they're like, if you look at those graphs where it's like, it shows houses that were built in the UK over the last 50 years, pretty much until Thatcher, it's at worst a 50-50 split between council and
very
private,
worst,
and then a little bit of housing association as well.
Yeah. Yeah, so instead of what we've done, certainly under the Tories, is we've wasted billions upon billions on Help to Buy, which, apart from helping landlords, acquire more properties, the main point of that is to get back to where we started all this, which is to close the gap between the 5x of your annual income and the mortgage price. That Help to Buy was essentially designed to close that particular gap, and we wasted billions on that instead of training a whole bunch of people and then sending them forth with, a government contract to just build some fucking council houses all over the shop. That's what we didn't do. That's, much like the climate, much like everything else in the UK and around the world, the Western world, whoever, that's what we should have started doing 20 years ago, if not 10 years ago. That would have been the fucking thing to do, apart from...
the thing is, as well as Help to Buy, we also had Right to Buy, which reduced the number of fucking council houses.
Yeah, and then didn't mandate councils replace them. So yeah,
nope, they weren't. Yeah, it's all good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, and then there was buy to let and every other fucking idiot scheme, but they were all designed to incentivize the private sector to build more houses, which they will again, to repeat, ad infinitum, they will simply never do. And also, like, I mean, we were talking about it before, David, you certainly mentioned it, is like, imagine what we could do if the government and local councils trained and paid the salaries for like almost 400,000 new builders, bricklayers, engineers, electricians, plumbers, you know, roof builders, thatchers, whatever
that is fucking
Thatchers, the actual
creation.
people who lay thatch, not fucking Margaret Thatchers, to be very clear.
Thatcher too many.
Yeah, that is wealth creation, though. That's actually what that fucking is. That would generate and create wealth because it's the government paying for it, and the government makes that from the fucking ether.
Like that right there, those 400,000 new people being paid a good wage, it has an infinity of benefits, because if you want to build houses all over the country, guess what you will create by paying these people? You know, the middle-class skilled professionals that every fucking country screams that they need, and you will put them not just in London or in Manchester or in Leeds, where, you know, capital already agglomerates onto itself. You will put them all over the fucking country, because they will be needed all over the country to do more of the thing. And once these people have finished building 1.5 million new homes, guess what else they can do? They can go back and retrofit all the fucking shitty, drafty, leaky, energy inefficient crap house homes that were built, a lot of which by necessity, and so it's a different story, in the 1970s. And then when they're done with all that, imagine what else lovely things like skilled builders can do. You know, it's like you're talking about the fucking the New Deal, the American New Deal, the fucking public works program. You can get people, skilled builders can also build. They can build roads, they can build parks, they can build infrastructure, they can build all kinds of amazing things. But we don't want that. The UK fucking desperately needs, you know. Like, if you imagine you go for like a fucking stroll in the Lake District or in your local park, and all of a sudden, instead of like this fucking half-abandoned, torched fucking piece of shit, there's a nice handcrafted fucking bandstand where you could go and hang out, because it's nice there. And there's some lovely benches that have been built by fucking, you know, people, skilled people.
You are betraying your fundamental misunderstanding of this country, because such things would attract youths.
Yeah, you don't want the youths to hang out.
Yeah, but then you could build, these people could also build them a fucking skate park, which I know is closed because it makes too much noise, etc. But like, you could even do that. Like, you could even, you know, David, you were talking about your own experience, and like, I don't know, I'm still looking for a fucking job. If the government paid me to, like, you know, convert in a year or two into like a semi-skilled fucking profession, I think I'm too old to like carry bricks around, but I don't know, I'd probably take that deal. I think there's a ton of people who have no work right now who would love to train for a year or two or 3 or 4 and do an apprenticeship at a good wage. Imagine what...
Yeah, but we'd have to make sure that they paid for that training through loans.
Yeah. At a slight markup.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, but just... Like, I'm not even talking about, like, you know, it would be... I am all in favor of fucking nationalizing the whole thing. But even within the fucking idiot framework of the threadbare social democracy we all pretend to have, this is something you could do. Like, you should, I would even say, do. But we won't. Instead, we're going to ask fucking, you know, Barrett Holmes and Alan Sugar to convert his fucking shithouse office blocks into drafty little things, you know, with bad lighting and 12 feet by 12 feet that will count towards the target that is still in London and you will still pay a massive mortgage for, because we're not even talking about the rental sector, we're talking about the buying sector. Like, that's how you do it. That's the only way you do it. And it also partially, the last thing I wanted to say about all this is, like, you can, this system, this Labour government, this idea of, like, making councils ram through more Barrett homes everywhere, all of them made of fucking cardboard, all of them falling apart the day after they've been delivered. House prices are, under the current system of British capitalism, not allowed to come down, because they are, for most people, that's the retirement fund. The one asset that the bourgeoisie of the UK has, broadly speaking, less and less so, but certainly aging homeowners who vote, Their one asset is not in the stock market, maybe a little bit, via pension fund or something. It's not that. They own a house. And the second you start tweaking that, you start seriously lowering house prices, and you don't build like a social safety net that will catch these people as, you know, as the price of their one asset falls. If you don't do that, you will have a fucking bourgeois revolution on your hands. Because you can't do it. It's so baked into the system of everything else that this is the one fucking thing that the one bubble that is not allowed to pop, because the consequences for like a bourgeois political system are almost unimaginable. Unless, of course, you rebuild the social safety net and you train some fucking builders. Because this is also unsustainable.
Consider, Rob, though, it would be really funny if it did happen.
I don't know, man. I think it would be funny, but I think the people that, you know, would emerge as leaders to fix it would look a lot like the Tories saying these 1.5 million homes go to immigrants. And I don't think you'd want to see the results of that.
Oh, so fundamentally what we've got, but faster then.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know.
Yeah.
But like I said, there are legitimate ways out of this where you don't even have to, even though we should, destroy capitalism for it to get going with it. You just train some people, you know what I mean? And fucking fund councils to build some fucking houses. You could do it tomorrow. You could start small.
But if we considered we could get an AI to do it instead.
Yeah.
And then, like, you know what I mean? Someone somewhere would, like, get a shitload of money off the government that they should be spending on useful things like housing their fucking citizens.
Yeah.
And it would instead, like, disappear into fucking Google's bank accounts.
His next pod is in cyber.
Yeah.
Anyway, time for comment or commentary?
Yes, please.
Right. Let us not forget that China triggered a global pandemic which killed millions, destroyed livelihoods, and blighted our children's futures. Its failure to warn us of the emergence of COVID in a timely way, its refusal to stop international flights before it was too late, and its rejection of calls for an independent inquiry into the cause of the pandemic indicate that Xi Jinping's regime is not a responsible actor. Beijing's attempts to cover up the truth and silence whistleblowers was nothing short of criminal. Is that comment or commentariat?
Commentariat.
Okay. As opposed to the responsible actors in the UK government that killed, 200,000 people.
Yeah.
Still the highest death toll in Europe. Anyway, never mind. That's commentariat.
Yeah, that was Benedict Rogers at the Telegraph. Britain will pay a terrible price for its blind spot over China.
Okay,
blind
cool.
Spot. The only blind spot that we have for China is the fact that it is the sun and we keep fucking staring at it.
I thought the other blind spot was Prince Andrew, if I've been reading the papers, but sure, why not?
My children grew up with The Simpsons, but dropped watching it when it became woke.
Oh my
God. Comment or commentariat?
Yeah, it became woke about halfway through season 9.
Yeah.
Comment?
Comment?
I
not committed to that
hope
one.
it's comment.
Yeah, that was a comment in the Daily Mail.
2 for 2.
Many, many years ago, my mother bought me a musical ceramic teapot that played a melody when the lid was lifted. Even now, though it just stands in the cupboard untouched, it plays the melody when the sun shines. No place to put batteries, and been there for at least 20 years. Does anyone else have one of these teapots? Definitely strange, playing for a few seconds and fairly loud too. Is that comment or commentary?
Is this somehow Richard Littlejohn in the comments?
This is from Paranormal Times, or where the fuck did you drag this from?
This is from the Remember the Milkman Facebook group.
I desperately want this to be I desperately want this to be commentariat for some reason.
Yeah,
just somebody filling their pages with the haunted teapot.
Yeah, commentariat, go.
And that was a comment in the Express.
Aww.
The article was titled "The Shocking New Psychic Predictions for 2025, Including a Pandemic Worse Than COVID."
Why didn't we cover this? Oh, that would have been a great article to read. Oh, well, no one's ever going to get to hear what the predictions are now. You need to go into 2025 unspoiled.
Well, yeah, I can tell you one of them was
Okay,
advances in rocketry.
All right.
All right, Werner von Braun, thank you.
There you go, advances in
Werner von
rocketry
Braun show.
and a new plague. There you go.
Werner von Braun short is a very good fucking username.
Well,
I'm
that's your
saving that for the next season for All Mankind. That's right. Okay.
Back.
All right. Well, that's the episode, and that's us. I think for the year almost. We've got the awards show still to come out. If you're a patron, we've got 2 parts of the awards show to come out. Hint, hint. Patreon.com/praxiscast. Also,
Yeah. You also get the
patrons will
Q&A if you're a Patreon
Yes.
subscriber.
Yes. So now is the time to join. Too late to ask his fucking questions, but you can still hear it. So patreon.com/praxiscast. Spend the solitary $5 that your wee granny gave you on that, because it'll be better than spending it on one sweetie shop for 2 Freddos or whatever the fuck that gets you these days.
Yeah.
The exchange rate to smooth Mars bars is fucking low these days.
Shut the fuck up about the smooth Mars bar, for fuck's sake.
I will never shut up about the smooth Mars bar. Make me coward.
They removed the dick vein because of woke.
Over the Christmas break, we may also do some streams. We don't know about that, but we might. Follow us, twitch.tv/praxiscast, and you'll at least get a notification as to whether or not we're live. Or join
one
Discord
day,
as a patron,
your streams will
and
return
you'll
from the
find
war.
out about it through a ping. Do you want to try that again, Jamie? Or?
Nah, I'm good.
Okay.
I'll just move it in the edit. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll move it to
Melch is-
after this bit.
Okay. Merch is also
much
available
like
at
emerging from the warp, you never know where it ends up.
Bye. Wow. I love it when we talk over.
Bye. Yeah. Happy
Yeah.
Christmas.
No.